Hello everyone, and welcome to this video on writing tips for AuthorAID participants enrolled on the Research Writing for Social Sciences course. My name is Neela McGrath, and I'm going to take you through a couple of things which are tips that I use myself. Now some tips might be more relevant to you than others. But I think that they might be also relevant if you're writing other types of research evidence documents, so things like reports or briefings. Now, I don't focus on grammar or using tenses or punctuation, but there is some really excellent free online resources to help you with that in the course materials, so take a look at that when you get a chance. In this video, I'm going to be talking about clarifying and structuring your argument, just a technique that I use to do that. And I'm going to touch a little bit on the tone used in academic papers. So let's start with clarifying and structuring your argument. An effective argument has to have really clear points. But when I start writing about a particular topic, I'm not always clear straight away what the points are that I'm trying to make. Because I think you have to ruminate a little bit, don't you, on the information that you have, just to understand where you stand on a particular topic based on the evidence in front of you. And so the only way I know how to begin articulating what I think about a topic is to write down a list of points that I know, irrespective of whether or not I agree with them. And while I'm writing that list, I will also add things like, do I think the information or the process or whatever it is I'm writing about, do I think it is problematic in any way? Is it limited in any way? Does it offer the best explanation of a particular topic? You know, just my thoughts on it all. Basically what I'm doing is I am ruminating out loud and onto the page. And I'm using my own everyday conversational language to do that, with absolutely no regard whatsoever for punctuation or grammar or anything like that. So this isn't a particularly sophisticated setup, because it's just a bulleted list. That's all I used, much like the activity that we're asking AuthorAID participants to do actually. But mine is more of a freestyle form of putting all my thoughts onto the page. But it works for me. It gives me clarity. It helps me sort through the many thoughts I have in my head. And putting my thoughts onto the page also helps me edit. And what I mean by that is I go through my list and I go through all the comments and I mark which are the main points with a little star or a 1 or 2 or something like that. And I mark which are the sub points, and I draw little arrows here and there just to kind of form a little structure. And I can also see which points are half-formed thoughts and ones that might be worth expanding on, and equally they might not be. Now, I learned to do this while I was writing up my PhD, and I used to structure my argument with some sticky notes on my kitchen wall, and it worked for me because it was a visual reminder of what I had to write about. It covered a kind of the size of a flip chart piece of paper, and I could physically play with the structure and move new things in, take things out. I could add things, etc. I no longer use my kitchen wall, but I still use sticky notes, or I hand write ideas onto a single page as a mind map, and then I transfer that onto a Word document. So what I'm saying is that structuring your argument is about finding clarity first and foremost. And using sticky notes or mind mapping or bulleted lists are, for me, the simplest and easiest methods to do this. Another important thing to mention is that you can pretty much write anything you like at this stage. So don't edit your thoughts before you put them on the page. Now, at some stage, you have to change your list of thoughts into actual sentences, and then you have to connect those sentences into paragraphs, and the course material will take you through that with some exercises. So all I'm going to add at this stage is to say that signposting your reader is really important while you draft papers. And the easiest way to signpost is by using headings and subheadings and numbered lists, and by numbering your points. Now with headings, a journal normally gives guidance on what to label different sections of your paper, so introduction, background, methods, etc., discussion. And they're quite useful headings for papers and for reports and briefings as well. But under those kind of standard headings that are in the guidelines, you should use subheadings which help label each point and signpost the reader as to what's coming next. Even more ways of signposting your reader include using numbered lists, so they're quite good for descriptive methods sections, and by using words such as firstly, secondly, thirdly, finally when you're expanding on points. Now by saying firstly, secondly, thirdly, finally, the reader already knows there are 4 points. So these are little techniques that you can use to help structure your paper and bring clarity as well. So to summarize, which is also a very good phrase to use in your paper, to summarize, before you can structure your argument, you need to clarify the points that you're trying to make before you do anything else. And then when you're writing up your argument, make sure you signpost your reader using headings and subheadings, and by using phrases like firstly, secondly, finally, etc., and using numbered lists as well. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is the tone of the paper. You can get a good sense of the tone you need to use for your paper if you read the journal articles that are in the journal that you want to submit to. Not just a handful of them, but really go through the kind of a good few years, dip in and out of them, and get a sense of the balance of the active and passive language that's used. Now papers are a strange hybrid of active and passive language, and I would encourage you to try writing in the active voice wherever possible, for 3 reasons. Firstly, it reduces your word count. Secondly, it makes your writing really clear and concise. And the third and final reason, it will make your paper much more reader friendly. And by reader friendly, I don't mean it will dumb it down. Far from it. It takes a lot of skill to convey technical terms and the nuances of research using primarily active language, which is difficult to do actually, particularly when you're used to writing in the passive voice in your kind of regular work setting. So to summarize that, practice writing in active language. Don't be frightened to be direct in your writing either. And read articles from the journal that you would like to submit to, so you get a good sense of the tone that you should be replicating in your article. So with that, I will sign off, and I hope you found it useful and enjoy the rest of your AuthorAID course.